Good morning, everybody. I would like to call this meeting of Development and Property to order on Tuesday, the May 16th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. As we gather this morning, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Evelyn, has roll call been taken?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and we have quorum.
Thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, then I would need a mover and a seconder for the minutes of the special public meeting of April the 11th, 2023. Moved by Councillor from Petawawa, seconded by the Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. And then I will need a mover and a seconder for the meetings of April the 11th, 2023 and April 26th, 2023. Moved by Councillor from Arnprior, seconded by Councillor from Township of Horton. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried as well. We have no delegations at this time, so we'll move on to the development and property reports, and we will start with Director Davis, please.
Thank you, Chair. On page 2 of your committee package is our Development and Property Committee report, and good morning, everyone. Item number 1 is for information is the Treasurer report. As you see in your committee package on pages 6 to 10 is just the update from January, February, and March of our financial reports for the different divisions within our department. I'll take you to one page, page 8 in your committee package under Forestry. You'll see we do have a bit of a surplus, and that's to do with, for County of Renfrew, revenues from the forestry operations, and these are carryovers from 2022. So overall, we're under budget by a little bit, and the main reason is this forestry revenue. So maybe, Chair, I'll leave it at that, and we do have our managers here to see if there's any questions from committee about the Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. So I will open it up for questions. I'm not seeing any, so please go ahead, Mr. Davis.
Thank you again, Chair. So item number 2 is high-speed internet. Interesting information package from the province of Ontario. You may recall during County Council, Jason St. Pierre of EORN talked about different activities, initiatives by different telecommunication companies within Renfrew County. And one of the questions, or the multiple questions from committee and from the public is, where are these initiatives taking place? And so what you have on page 11 to 13 of your committee package is the media release. I highly recommend that you pass this along to your ratepayers and in your municipalities, because most people do have questions about where there is high-speed capacity or capabilities now and in the future. So this interactive map, it's a very slick map. It highlights areas within Renfrew County, well, all of Ontario, but within Renfrew County, and it tells you where initiatives are occurring and when these initiatives for high-speed or fiber optic cabling will be complete within Renfrew County. So it's a good news story. Again, a number of people have asked this question: where is and when is and where is fiber optic high-speed internet going to be available within Renfrew County? Item number 3, Chair, for information found on page 14 of your committee package is a letter of intent from the First Baptist Church in the town of Arnprior. Within this letter of intent, they're looking to see if there's any synergies, any capabilities or opportunities to meet with and discuss with the County of Renfrew, both as the real property department and with the housing and social services department, to see if there's any fit within their vacant land they have in the town of Arnprior. As you see in the letter, they were just wondering if there's any expression of interest from the county for this property. So we'll meet with Laura Lepine's staff to see if there's any possibilities, opportunities, and come back to the committee if there is a fit for this initiative. And item number 4 is Canada Community Revitalization Fund, CCRF. I smile about this because this initiative was applied for by the County of Renfrew staff for trail work in 2021. You might recall during some closed meetings for the Trails Committee and maybe even D&P, if my memory serves me right, that we were successful with this CCRF fund. It was one of our bigger initiatives to complete the trail from Cobden to the city of Pembroke, 24 kilometers, I do believe, to improve the trail, the Algonquin Trail. And we finally received a notification we can announce this. It's a good news story, but it's a little late. So not only did we receive this, thank you very much, the money has been spent in 2021 to complete the trail from Cobden to the city of Pembroke. So that's a good news story, a little late, but late nonetheless. We appreciate the support from the different levels of government to get the Algonquin Trail completed as we have right now. And maybe, Chair, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. So we'll go back to information item number 2, the high-speed internet interactive map. Questions or comments? Yes, Councillor from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. Last week I attended a meeting for the Canada's Rural and Remote Broadband Community in North Bay. One of the things they said about the broadband was this map is going to be available, but there's going to be, I believe, 39 different districts where this broadband will be sent to. Whoever gets that contract for that one section has a provision that they don't have to provide 5%. So this map looks good, but that 5% could be your house. Just to give, when you look at the map, don't take it as gospel. Thank you.
Thank you. And Warden, you had a comment?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, will this be sent out to the local municipality so they can just put it on their website with a link? Is there a possibility we can tinker with it a little bit so that it makes it easier? Because if we just send out the press release, and sometimes links don't work on press releases, and people don't, they're under news, they're not under, and they put them under council reports, or they put them under upcoming events, so it's hard to find. So is there a possibility of making it a little more prominent, making it easier for our local municipalities to make it prominent? Thank you.
Mr. Davis, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the Warden. So yeah, we can send this link directly to each municipality as we move forward. And again, it's an interactive map. Yes, maps are my wheelhouse a little bit. And the map is as good as the information we have. So it's better than nothing. Is it 100% accurate? Yes and no, but at least it's an indication of where things could be. And yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other, yes, follow-up?
Just thank you. And the good news is it's not our information, it's somebody else's. And so, we can't attest to the accuracy. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And just to follow up on the councillor from Arnprior, I do certainly understand, because we have those situations in our municipality where that 5% is sometimes the last 2 or 3 residents on a road who end up not getting that service that's supposed to be provided to all residents. Moving on to item number 3 is the letter of intent for the development in Arnprior. Comments or questions? Yes, Councillor from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. Just a notice that next Tuesday is our council meeting. We'll have the open house for that, or public meeting, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none? Oh, sorry. Follow-up.
My apologies, Chair. Thanks to Bruce, we now have Zen City for that subdivision, so people are watching can zoom into Zen City and get an update on that subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Moving on to item number 4 is the Canada Community Revitalization Fund. It is always nice that we get to announce this a year after the work has already been done. Oh, Warden, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, and congratulations to staff for a successful application, and I think we should reassure, the public and members of council that it's not optimal, nor was it our wish to remain enclosed, but that is part of the contractual relationship with both levels of government, is that they ultimately can control the information, and I think if you look under the section of the Act that talks, broadly speaking, it's about information or guidance or negotiations with other levels of government, which allows and forces us to stay within closed. At first glance, there is no reason for this other than it's a communication between the other two levels of government and ourselves, and it's unfortunate. We don't make the rules; we have to survive by them as we access funding. So. It's unfortunate, but a good news story that's clouded a little bit by process.
Thank you for that. So I'll go back to Mr. Davis now for resolutions.
Thank you again, Chair. So on your committee package on page 3 is the first resolution is number 5, the Association of Municipalities Ontario Conference Delegation Request. And the recommendation, Chair, that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council approve the submission of delegation request for the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, Conference for the Minister of Natural Resources, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to address the issues of accurate and current flood mapping for the major rivers and tributaries in the region.
Thank you for that. You've heard the resolution. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Town of Arnprior, seconded by the Warden. Comments or questions? Maybe could you just give us a little bit background, Mr. Davis?
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. So we at this level are aware of a number of flooding events that has happened in Renfrew County 2017, 2019, and we always thought these are kind of one-off, 1-in-100-year events. But unfortunately, in 2023, just a number of weeks ago, the Ottawa River was flooding, and a number of emergencies were held for Whitewater region, etc. So we see this as it's imperative to know and get information about flooding data and modeling. You may recall, and I won't go into details just because of some of the some funding announcements, but we are working with the Ministry of Natural Resources to do some flood mapping and some flood modeling. But the more discussions we have with the Ministry of Natural Resources staff, county staff are coming to the realization it will take years to get the information we desperately need for the Ottawa River, the Bonnechere River, Madawaska River, to have the data, to have the information about where floods could occur when the events do happen. So this request to be a delegation is really to push this file along. Again, we're very fortunate to work with our good partners at the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. However, I think we are at a point now that with 3 events in 7 years, we need to have this information, this modeling completed in a very expedited fashion. We don't have a conservation authority in Renfrew County. Typically, the conservation authority would have this information, have this modeling, and by default, if there is no conservation authority, the Ministry of Natural Resources are responsible to have this information. So that's why we're kind of pushing this in front of the minister if we do get a delegation to get this done in our AMO conference in this fall. So Chair, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for that. And just to follow up, I know on the Bonnechere River water system, had we not had that Bonnechere River water management amendment, we would have been in a lot worse shape there. We did reach 2017 levels, and that's where it peaked. But had it not been for the amendment to lower the water levels in the fall, I think we would have been in a lot worse shape. Any other comments or questions on that item? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And back to you for bylaws, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Chair. For bylaws, item number 3, and again, before I read the recommendation, so we are doing a transition period between D&P Development and Property Committee and our Public Works Department with trail maintenance. So this item was brought forward to our Trail Advisory Committee just last week through our Public Works, Taylor Hanrath. And so if Taylor should be here, but if he was here, he would be doing this presentation to you. But in the meantime, I'll do this until we get the information and get the terms of reference for a trail committee finalized between Public Works and ourselves. So that's why there's a bit of a transition here. So what you see in the bylaws, the request for tender PWC 2023-34 Algonquin Trail Barriers, and the recommendation, Chair, that the Development and Property Committee recommends to County Council that contract PWC 2023-34 as submitted by Bonisher Excavating Incorporated, BEI, Renfrew, Ontario, for new barriers on the Algonquin Trail over Highway 17.16 kilometers east of Manette Lake Road, United Townships of Head Clare, Mariah, in the amount of $313,340 plus applicable taxes to be approved, and further that County Council pass a bylaw to authorize execution of the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. You have heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from McNabb-Braeside. I'll go back to you, Mr. Davis, for background.
Thank you, Chair. And as background, as we build out the Algonquin Trail in the northern section of our county, so through northwest of the village of Chalk River, we do have a number of structures. And this structure is over Highway 17. It's in the Driftwood Park, Provincial Park area, if you're in the area driving around. It's the first structure you drive under on Highway 17, northwest of the village of Chalk River. And as part of our typical build process, staff will review all structures, what is required to make this structure usable for all trail users, and this is what you have in front of you as a recommendation with the amount for BEI to fix this structure up to MTO standards as a recreational trail over Highway 17. The good news is, though, we do have partners. So we've partnered with the Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Clubs, OFSC. They will put a grant application in on our behalf to help alleviate this cost. As you see in the committee package, if they are successful, the cost of the County of Renfrew is a lot less than the initial amount of $313,000. And again, we've partnered with OFSC in a number of structures throughout the year, a great partnership. And again, in this one example, as OFSC, in previous examples, and you might have heard about it and remember that the Renfrew County ATV Club has partnered with Renfrew County in the past too to do structures like this. So it's a good partnership. This work has to be completed to make this trail usable. So, and we do have the funds within our budget. So I'll leave it at that, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. You've heard the background. Any comments or questions? Yes, Councillor from Town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Jason. Just a question about any additional barriers between there and Mattawa that we are responsible for, and what the costs might be.
We do have a number. Oh, sorry, Chair. Through you. We do have a number of structures going west of that, west of this one big structure. We do not have the final numbers of what it'll take to complete them. We don't have that. One big structure we're discussion with the Ministry of Transportation is the large Bissett Creek structure. That is the next, I'm going to say one of the biggest structures we have on the trail, and it's unknown who owns this structure, whether it's CP, now us, or is it MTO who's responsible for the maintenance. So we have emails going back and forth. It's one of those items where it's not in good repair. There will be large amounts of money if we need to repair that, or if MTO can give us permission to have a level crossing, remove that structure and just have a level crossing at that location. So yes, I'm not answering your question directly because I don't have the direct answers, but we are aware of a number of structures. Thank you.
Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
Through you, Chair, to Jason. I noticed that we have on here option 1 and option 2. What is the difference between option 1 and option 2? Are we losing out in anything by using option 1 compared to option 2?
If I may, Chair, through you, you put me on the spot, and I don't, my memory doesn't serve me well right now for items 1 and 2. I'll bring this back to our committee or to your attention once I talk to Taylor about options 1 and 2.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Davis? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So that brings us to our Economic Development Division report, and that would be Ms. Markwood, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. First item on the Economic Development report is the 2023 and 2024 Taste of the Valley dates and locations. We're pretty excited as the Economic Development team to make this announcement. If you are aware, we took some time to survey vendors after the events last year, did a review of the events, and ultimately we released expressions of interest to host to all municipalities earlier in this March, and we received 7 applications to host 6 events over the 2 years. So it was a bit of a competitive process. There were a number of communities who ultimately wanted to host within the same month or along the same time frame, so we had to work with those applications received to find some suitable dates. But the goal of this revamp was to spread the events out geographically across the county so that there was an opportunity provided for any community or municipality who did want to host. It was also to approach the events as a partnership opportunity with the host municipalities, as well as to reduce the overall number of events. So in 2022, we held 8 Taste of the Valley events, and that was starting to dilute the overall purpose of the event. Thanks, Jason. So we wanted to reduce the number of events overall, and that was also based on vendor feedback. So the goal is to have 4 regular Taste of the Valley events plus 1 holiday edition leading up to the Christmas holiday time. And so we're pleased to announce that the dates and locations for 2023 will be August 12th at the Eganville Arena in the Township of Bonnechere Valley, September 9th at the Calabogie Rinkin Community Center in the Township of Greater Madawaska, which is a new host community. They've never hosted a Taste of the Valley event before. September 30th at the Town Hall parking lot in the Town of Deep River, October 14th at the Cobden Fairgrounds in the Township of Whitewater Region, and December 16th will be the holiday edition at the Germania Club in Pembroke. And just important to note, we didn't change the hosting location or time frame for the October event in Cobden. Cobden was the original Taste of the Valley event that was started back in 2006. It is the biggest and most successful of the event. It is the closeout of the season, and so we didn't want to mess with a good thing. And so Cobden, remains as the host for the last one of the fall harvest season. In 2024, we will be going to the Barry's Bay Railway Station in the Township of Madawaska Valley on August 10th, and we're happy to see that event come back to the Barry's Bay Railway Station, which is where it was held previously in the past, and it's a great venue and has a lot of great traction. September 7th, we'll be going to Killaloe for the first time in the Township of Killaloe, Haggerty Richards. September 28th, we'll be at the Town of Petawawa at the Civic Center. October 12th, back at the Cobden Fairgrounds in Whitewater Region. And we have not set the date and location for the holiday edition of the 2024 event because we want to review that following this year's event because we're changing the location based on vendor feedback. And so we'll be surveying vendors again after the holiday edition this year just to see that it's working for everyone. Because there was an initial request to have that event held in Pembroke, but we do want to assess that to see how that's going to go. So we're pretty excited about this and having a more formalized structure to hosting these events and entering into collaboration partnerships with our host communities to host these. These events provide great economic activity and opportunity to local host communities. They spur a lot of economic activity in terms of participating at other activities in the village where the event is being held, as well as spending dollars in the local community. So we're really excited to have events listed for the next 2 years, which will help all the vendors and everyone that attends get their planting and their growing seasons and their crafts and all of their fine goods that they make to bring to this event prepared. And just on that final note, vendor applications will launch later this week for the 2023 events. Number 2 on my report is the Community Economic Development 101 workshop that was held in Cobden on May 3rd. So we had just over 55 participants attend, and so that was a great morning session with staff from OMAFRA who kind of guide municipal leaders and staff through community economic development planning for their individual municipalities, and copies of the slide deck and the Community Economic Development Inventory Guide is attached for information. Number 3, Canadian Nuclear Laboratories has announced the world's first micro-modular reactor in Chalk River. So I'm sure many of you saw this on the news on May 11th, just last week, where Chalk River and Global First Power announced that Chalk River will be the site for a demonstration site for the small modular reactor. So the link to the news article with CTV News is included there. And I do realize that there were a number of councillors that were in attendance at that event. Item number 4 is a Canadian Nuclear Laboratories County Day, which is being held on June 2nd from 10 to 3 p.m. And so that's an invitation to colleagues and community leaders from across Renfrew and Pontiac counties to have a chance to see what all happens at Chalk River and at Canadian Nuclear Laboratories. And so there is information attached in the report related to this as well. And I will stop there, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Margaret. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the 2023-2024 Taste of the Valley dates and locations. This is, again, exciting news for these upcoming events. Comments or questions? Seeing none, item number 2 is the Community Economic Development 101. Yes, Councillor from McNabb Braeside.
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Markart. What would it take to get one of those presentations in our township? Maybe we could combine with some of the other towns and townships around.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, so this was open up to all municipalities across Renfrew County. We can definitely reach out to OMAFRA to see if they can come back. These are regular workshops that they do attend, and so we realize that not everybody is able to attend on May 3rd. So I can definitely reach out to OMAFRA to see if they'd be interested in coming back, and we can try and find a suitable date if that works.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? This was an excellent presentation and some very, very good information. Item number 3 is the Canadian Nuclear Laboratories first micro-modular reactor. Comments, questions? Seeing none, item number 4 is the Atomic Energy of Canada, the County Day planned for June the 2nd. I would hope that on that county day we might get a first-hand demonstration of this new nuclear reactor. Any comments or questions? I see none, so I'll go back to you, Ms. Margaret, for resolutions.
Thank you, Chair. So the resolution is the letter of support for Canadian Nuclear Laboratories near-surface disposal facility. And I'll read the recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommends to County Council that a letter under the warden's signature be sent to Canadian Nuclear Laboratories in support of their proposal to construct a near-surface disposal facility in Chalk River.
You've heard the recommendation. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Laurentian Valley, seconded by Councillor from the town of Arnprior. Comments, questions? Actually, maybe we'll get the background first.
Thank you, Chair. So the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission has extended the review period for the proposal in order to provide additional time for CNL to continue to engage with Indigenous communities. So they're having another oral hearing on June 27th with those Indigenous communities. As part of this process, the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission is accepting written submissions from interveners that provide an oral presentation at the Part 2 hearing that took place in 2022. The county did make an oral presentation and written submission on April 7th, 2022, which is also attached to this report. CNL is requesting that the County of Renfrew consider submitting another written letter of support to the CNSC as part of this stage of the process, reinstating the county's support for the project for all of the same reasons previously outlined in April of 2022. CNL suggested that the only other addition to the letter for consideration is to include a sense of urgency for the process to come to a conclusion so that CNL can begin the process of addressing the low-level waste issue as soon as possible. And the deadline to submit this written intervention is May 31st, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Markwood. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. And so we will move on to the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association report. And once again, Ms. Markwood.
Thank you, Chair. So just a couple updates on behalf of the OVTA. So on Tuesday, April 25th, we held our tourism conference and annual general meeting. This was the first time we were back in person after 3 years, so it was very exciting. There was lots of great energy in the room with close to 60 participants attending, which included tourism businesses, community organizations and municipalities, media, and other stakeholders. It was a really great day. We took care of the AGM annual general meeting portion in the morning with business matters by updating bylaws, election of the board of directors, approving financial statements, and then we also heard from a number of speakers throughout the day, including Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization, the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport, as well as Destination Ontario. And then our tourism staff also presented the new culinary tourism strategy to delegates and got everyone kind of thinking about how to create more tourism or culinary tourism experiences in the region. So it was a really great day, and then we wrapped up with presentation of the Ottawa Valley Tourism Awards. Number 2 is announcing our new board of directors for 2023 and 2024 who were elected during the AGM. And so those include Megan James from Somewhere in Calabogie, Beth Kennedy of Placemaking Design, Julia Klimak with the Upper Ottawa Valley Heritage Society, formerly known as the Champlain Trail Museum in Pembroke, Joel Kowalski with Wilderness Tours, Lauren McElfatrick with Heliconia, Emily Stovall with the Arnprior District Museum, Stephanie Van Wyck of the Madawaska Canoe Centre, Rachel Worth-Kappel of Braiding Rivers, Chris Hinsberger of the Bonachère Caves, who is appointed on a 1-year term as an honorary director, and that was a new position created during the AGM. Chris Melmoth from Algonquin College slides into the past chair position. And then we have Elijah McEwen, City of Pembroke, Mayor David Bennett, and I completely apologize for missing the councillor from Greater Madawaska, Mr. Rob Weir, on my report. My apologies, sir. Oh, it is there? Okay. Oh, it's on the next page, sorry. Who were also on the board. I thought we'd missed somebody there who was in the room, so I apologize for that. We do have one vacancy on the board that does remain, and the board will be working to fill that over the course of the next year. And then the chair and vice chair positions will be elected at the first meeting of the new board, which is being scheduled in the next couple of weeks. Number 3 on the report is the announcement of our Ottawa Valley Tourism Awards winners. And so our tourism champion of the year is Teresa Hebb from the Renfrew County ATV Club. Business organization is the Madawaska Canoe Centre. Event of the year is the Pembroke Multicultural Festival. Our sustainability champion is the Somewhere Inn in Calabogie. New tourism product was the Rio Tap and Grill for their new rooftop patio. And the tourism marketing award went to Oella Cafe located in Calabogie. Last item on my report is just to let everyone know that the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario has created an electrical vehicle infrastructure working group, which I have become a member of. And the purpose of this group is it represents tourism sectors, destination marketing organizations, and municipalities. But the purpose of this group is to meet and discuss the implementation of EV charging infrastructure, specifically in rural Ontario. So as with most technologies, the technology is advancing and the infrastructure is not necessarily keeping up, and so there are pockets of infrastructure that is missing for electric vehicles. And also what is coming to light is all the electric boats that are now coming onto the markets and marinas not having electric vehicle charging stations. And so as we know, in urban centers, there's much infrastructure, but there's not much to be had in rural Ontario. And so the purpose of this working group is to advocate and lobby with the provincial government to encourage infrastructure investments in rural Ontario for EV charging capabilities. We did have our first meeting on April 26th, and just to discuss the state of the current infrastructure status across Ontario. And then there was an additional meeting with the Ministry of Transportation a few days after that regarding the announcement of a $90 million funding stream that was announced, but details are yet to be released. But the purpose of that conversation with MTO was to get a bit of a sense of how those dollars are going to be rolled out. And they have indicated an announcement will be made later this summer. We're hoping in July, but that pot of funding will be made available to businesses and municipalities in rural Ontario in order to be able to apply for offsetting the costs of implementing EV infrastructure in their communities. And I will pause there.
Thank you, Ms. Markwitt. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the Ottawa Valley Tourism Conference and Annual General Meeting. Comments, questions? Yes, Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
Yes, I'd just like to thank them for hosting this. It was very good, and the keynote speaker, Altaf Savani, was very informative, and if you get a chance, he does have a book out. I don't know the name of it, so I'm not really plugging it, but he's extremely knowledgeable, and it was great to listen to him and hear him speak, so thank you for that.
Thank you. I don't remember the name of the book. Melissa, do you?
You're going to catch me off guard now. It's Labor Crisis in the Hospitality Tourism Industry Sector, I believe.
Thank you for that. Any other comments on item number 1? Seeing none, item number 2 is the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association Board of Directors. Item number 3 are the Ottawa Valley Tourism Award winners. And item number 4 is the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Working Group. Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
In regards to this, through you, Chair, just wondering when you're at the meetings, can you possibly explore, do we actually have the electrical infrastructure to support this in a rural area? And perhaps they can work out what would be the costing to get that infrastructure in place. I know that would be huge, but I think it's just something that needs to be brought up in the discussion.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Yeah, I forgot to note that, I apologize, is the electrical grid capacity is a big part of this conversation. Just to your point, Councillor, that there are gaps in that across rural Ontario, and so that is part of the messaging to the provincial and federal powers that be, that the electrical grid also needs to be invested in order to be able to meet the demands of this new infrastructure and technology.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? This is very, very interesting, especially as you were saying, the number of electric boats now, and certainly when we look at the big marina in Pembroke, and I believe there's one in Deep River as well. I'm not sure if the grid is capable of handling. Yes, Councillor from Laurentian Valley.
Just going back to the Ottawa Valley award winners for the tourism, the Multicultural Festival, I was on the library board for a number of years. It started out very small numbers. It went through COVID, and it was online, ordering through restaurants and working with the community. This year it's going to be a 2-day event, Friday night and Saturday, and I was there and participated with it last year. I think it's a great opportunity for everybody and goes along together with the Lanark and Renfrew County Immigration Committee. So just put that out there for your own interest. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Did I miss you on that earlier item? Apologize. It's always the hardest person to see here at the front. Are there any other comments or questions on any of the items? Seeing none, then I'll go back to you, Ms. Markwood, for resolutions.
Thank you, Chair. I'll read the recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council approve the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association 2023 draft budget as presented.
Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from Town of Petawawa. Any comments or questions? I'll get you to do the background, if you would, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is the last step in the approval of the OVTA budget. Just for everyone's information, as part of our three-way agreement with the County of Renfrew and the City of Pembroke, the budget process is as follows. So the board develops the draft budget or approves the draft budget usually in late fall. It then goes to Pembroke City Council for approval and then to County Council, Development of Property and County Council for final approval. And so this is just the final stage of that. It was approved by the OVTA board last December, approved by the City of Pembroke last month, and is now with you folks for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marquardt. Once again, any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. And once again, back to you, Ms. Marquardt, for Enterprise Renfrew County report.
Thank you, Chair. And just before I start that, it wasn't in my report, but I just wanted to give a little lovely shout out to Councillor Service from Petawawa, who braved the frigid waters of the Petawawa River this weekend to run down the Petawawa River in a tandem kayak during the Hell or High Water Festival. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming to one of our tourism events and for braving those frigid waters, because that's not an easy thing to do. So kudos to you.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor from
Thank you,
Petawawa.
Chair. Through you to Melissa. I'm not glad that you brought that up. I was hoping there were no pictures of or video evidence of the terror in my face as I shot down those rapids. And I begged them to, if there were any pictures or video, that get one with my eyes open and a smile on my face. But I don't think that was possible. But it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I'm glad I did it. So thanks for...
So for the Enterprise Renfrew County report, their report is in person this morning. I would like to introduce our small business advisor, Heather Inwood Montrose, who's going to deliver an overview and update of the services that Enterprise Renfrew County provides.
Thank you. Welcome, Heather, and look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much, Chair Bros. Nice to be here and meet everyone. My name is Heather Inwood Montrose, and as Melissa said, I am the Small Business Advisor with Enterprise Renfrew County. I joined the team late last May and hit the ground running, and this is the first time I've been in these chambers since I was hired, so a pleasure to be here with you today. Next slide, please, Tina. So Enterprise Renfrew County is celebrating 25 years serving small businesses across our region. We've been in operation since 1988, and we are a member of the Small Business Centres of Ontario network. There are 54 small business centres across the province who support entrepreneurs in our region. And Enterprise Renfrew County has offices in both Pembroke here at CAB and in Renfrew. Next slide, Tina. So our mission is to encourage and contribute to the enterprising spirit and economic development of Renfrew County. Now, for me, I feel like that's a really lofty goal. When I bring that down to ground level, my role is to inspire entrepreneurs and to support them in whatever way I can. I'm a business coach, but I'm also a business owner, so I know what it's like to be on both sides of that equation. Enterprise Renfrew County is a nonprofit program. We are primarily funded by the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, as well as County of Renfrew, City of Pembroke, and the town of, City of Pembroke and the town of Renfrew. So we are grateful to the funding that we received to develop the programs. And again, the primary people that we're looking to support are new entrepreneurs, so people who are exploring entrepreneurship, maybe aren't quite sure what they want to do or they have a few ideas. People who are starting their businesses and very clear on what they want to do. People who have existing businesses and are looking to grow, expand, source some funding, and also succession planning. So through the entire life cycle of a business, we have tools and resources to help people who are looking to sell their businesses as well. And how do we do that? In a variety of ways. So our contract with the ministry requires that we cover a few main kind of categories of service. So the first way that we support businesses is through free confidential business consultations, and that is a large part of my role. Reaching out to identifying businesses who are looking for a little bit of support, engaging in conversation, and figuring out what their needs are. We also have resources and information. So we maintain a database, for example, of a lot of different funding opportunities depending on the sector that people are working in. We have a database of contacts and other community supports that are available. In addition to each of the economic development offices, for example, at your municipalities, so that we can refer appropriately. We also have a few flagship programs. So Starter Company Plus, I'll get into a little bit more detail further along. The Summer Company program, we offer workshops and events, so those can be in person, and we offer a lot of virtual events, which people are loving because our county is so broad. It's quite difficult to draw people in from all directions, so the virtual has gone over really well. And I would say the most important aspect of Enterprise Renfrew County is our partnerships. And so I want to spend a little bit of time touching on this. Partnerships can be external, such as partner service organizations like Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation, like our Employment Ontario service partners, Community Employment Services Algonquin College, On Track, PMFRC, the local immigration partnership. So these are some examples of external partners that we collaborate with to develop those workshops and events. But also our municipal partnerships, and I can give a few examples, very direct examples of how we work together with the municipalities. So, for example, a few days ago, I came across a grant opportunity for the agricultural sector through PV. They have an ag grant available, so I fired it off to Cameron, who is going to work with the Ottawa Valley Food Co-op and potentially put together a proposal to leverage some of these funds. So if I recognize that there's an opportunity that might be suitable to something that any of you are doing or that some of our small businesses are doing, I filter that information out into the network. Another couple examples of how we partner. So Township of Laurentian Valley, Petawawa. I've been working quite closely with your economic development officers. Last February, we hosted an in-person event to support your community improvement plan delivery. So your organizations were unable to source a trainer. Enterprise Renfrew County had someone who could develop sessions specific to storefront improvement and merchandising for your local businesses, and we collaborated and we put together an amazing event that everyone was really happy with. We're also working on some partnerships for Small Business Week as well. So if I know what your community improvement plans need, and if your economic development officers are looking for support, trainers, resources, please have them connect with me. I value collaborations and I stand behind those partnerships. Some internal examples of partnerships within the county itself. For example, this year we developed a new partnership with the home daycare program in the region. So there hadn't been a lot of internal communication within the county between that department and Enterprise in the past. And after reaching out to them to understand what they offer, I referred 6 new potential home daycare providers to them for their service to get licensed, and they referred several individuals back to me for assistance getting their business registered and legalized and insured and all of those things. So internal and external partnerships, we are happy to cross-refer and to collaborate to offer different events. One more item on collaborations, because it is the single most important thing we do. Another one of the ways that we support your municipalities, your economic development, and that we ask for the same in return is social media shares. So we have seen a marked increase in the calls for consultations this year, and I strongly believe it's because the partnerships have been actively following each other on social media, sharing your different events, sharing what's available, and it's really reaching a broader audience than we used to. So leveraging technology. Next slide, Tina, thank you. So this is an example of a success story, and I chose this young man because he kind of got a little piece of my heart as he started going through our process. So Cyrus was referred by PMFRC. He's a young man who was struggling to develop and promote his business. He's a hip-hop artist, a writer, musician, and a little challenged to develop the business side of things. So we began our consultations weekly because he needed that accountability. We kept appointments booked, he knew when it was coming up, and we developed a plan. So for me, it's very important to listen to what our business community needs, what each individual entrepreneur needs, and to understand their goals so that we can develop a strategy to help them systematically move toward it. So that's exactly what we did with Cyrus. We started weekly with coaching, helped him develop a light business plan to start. He identified that some of his goals were protecting his music. So because I'm a member of SOCAN and one of our past employees used to work for SOCAN, it's the Songwriters Association of Canada, we hooked up Cyrus with SOCAN to get his works protected. We also helped him develop a musician bio and practice cold calling different venues so that he could promote himself appropriately. We helped him develop a website, connect with some ways to create merchandise and get that on his website as well. And so he now has a full artist package that he can promote himself with. So we started with those weekly meetings, started shifting it to every couple weeks, then to every month, and he's now operating independently. And that really is the goal, to build the foundation that allows our entrepreneurs to then be out in the world doing what they do. So that business coaching helped him identify his goals, develop an action timeline, and remain accountable. And I find that for a lot of our business owners, they're passionate about what they do. They don't know how to develop a business, and so that accountability is really helpful for them to stay on track. Next slide. Thank you. So as a ministry-funded program, we are accountable to targets. And this is an example of what we achieved last year, which I am very proud of. I joined the team late May, so 2 months into the fiscal. Enterprise operates on a fiscal year, not a calendar year. So inquiries are considered to be any light touch communications from the community. So that could be an email, a telephone, a social media request, any way that someone comes in and asks for assistance. So our target's 750 and we had 899 in the last fiscal. Business consultations. This is a huge stat. Our target is 175. And we conducted 331 consultations last year. So almost doubling our target. I believe that is in large part due to our effective collaborations with the different municipalities and partner organizations. Cross referrals are happening, and I love it, so keep them coming. This is how we all grow and thrive together. Just a side note, of those 331 consultations, that represents 319 unique businesses. So some had repeat consultations, and others were just needed a little bit of information or a boost or a connection, and off they go. And these represent 3 different distinct types of businesses. So again, those exploring entrepreneurship, so they have not registered yet. Those who are starting businesses who do go ahead and register their businesses either as sole proprietors or partnerships or corporations, and then existing businesses. And we did see a significant increase in the number of existing businesses reaching out for help for growth purposes this year, which was nice to see coming off the past 3 years where things were a bit stagnant. Businesses started regionally on a target of 20. We helped 41 businesses register with the province. Businesses sustained 27 on a target of 20, expanded 21 on a target of 4, and jobs created regionally 50 on a target of 25. So where do these stats come from? I do follow-up surveys with all of my consultations so that I can actually validate, yes, in fact, these people are saying this is how we help them. Okay, so this is solid data. In addition to those core outcomes, we track outcomes above and beyond those through our different programs. So Starter Company Plus, we had 28 participants last year. We do a spring and a fall session. So this spring we have 20 participants currently in training. We issued 17 grants last year, 13 businesses started, 15 expanded, 46 jobs created simply through the Starter Company Plus program. And we leveraged just over $268,000 of investment into the region. So that number is reported by participants. How much have they invested in those businesses that is in turn driving our regional economy? The Summer Company program is designed for youth who are returning to school. We had 4 participants last year and 4 who received grants. We do have 5 seats, so we were struggling last year to fill those seats, again, coming off the end of the last few years and not being able to get into the high schools was a challenge. But this year, we have had 15 applicants for 5 seats, and the deadline to apply was yesterday. So we're in the process of reviewing all of those applications to identify this year's 5 participants. And the total value of grants that we issue between those 2 programs each year is $75,000. Next slide, Tina. So a little bit of Starter Company Plus. These are all our amazing folks that participated last year. They represent a cross-section of businesses from every municipality. The program is intense. It is a short-term, fast-track training program designed to help small business owners write a full business plan, 2 years of cash flow projections, and they have access to insurance, legal, and accounting experts to ask all the questions they wanted to ask and didn't want to pay for, so they can get that through our program. The program includes coaching, mentorship, and access to, again, those advisors. We started the spring intake May 3rd. Again, we have 20 people participating this spring. I wish I could give grants to everyone. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So the grant portion of the program is a pitch competition. We jokingly call it our Ottawa Valley Dragon's Den, but we're very kind to our participants when they're pitching. So a big part of my role in this is individual business plan reviews and the financial reviews. And what I'm looking for is that the numbers that they are suggesting they are going to meet in their business plans jive with their financial plans. So I spend a lot of time going line by line through each person's business plan and financials to help them identify any incongruencies. And that's also part of what I do in those core consultations. Next slide, Tina. And Summer Company. So this was our crew from last year. Students need to be between the ages of 15 to 29 and returning to school in the fall, so they can be secondary or post-secondary students. They receive $1,500 upfront if they're a successful applicant to help kickstart the business, buy those introductory supplies, tools, equipment, whatever they need. And then upon successful completion of the program, they can receive up to an additional $1,500. So the grant for Summer Company is $3,000 total. They attend training, so we give them health and safety training and marketing and financial training and just a broad coverage of different topics that will help them gain a foundational understanding of small business as students. And again, deadline to apply for this one was yesterday, so we're pretty excited to review the applications that are coming in. Thank you, Tina. Next slide. So back to the core aspects of Enterprise's service delivery. We, again, offer a number of virtual workshops, of in-person opportunities. So we just highlighted a couple from last year. Small Business Week is, of course, one of our largest undertakings. So this year, I'm super excited. We are in talks with Laurentian Valley, City of Pembroke, Petawawa, Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation, who reached out and said, hey, can we partner on this? We have an in-person session planned for October 15th, which is going to include 4 different workshops on creating Instagram, Reels, content calendars for social media, and how to use Canva. And then we'll be building on those topics and the storytelling theme. How do you tell the story of your business, with a couple virtual sessions to follow in the next 2 days. So a full lineup for Small Business Week. Last year we had a really fun interactive photography session held here at CAB, where people had some stations that they could bring their products in and practice taking different kinds of photos and lighting. So our business owners really appreciated that insight and experience. Also, we were thrilled to receive our first grant while I'm part of the team. From our ministry, we earned a $10,000 grant to improve our French language services. So through that grant, we delivered a networking breakfast opportunity, which was well attended. We had a Francophone Entrepreneur Award as part of that. We offered a series of virtual marketing workshops, all in French. And we translated a number of our resources, so our business plan templates, we have some light touch one-page business plan templates, cash flow templates, all sorts of resources to help people gather their ideas and get them on paper. And we were able to translate all of those resources and now have them available to our Francophone clientele. And that is what we do in a nutshell. Of course, it's always complex, never a dull moment, identifying different people's needs and helping them move toward their goals. And I'm honored to be a part of the Renfrew County team and moving Enterprise Renfrew County forward. Is there any questions?
Councillor from McNabb-Braeside, and then Town of Petawawa.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Heather, for this presentation. Congratulations for exceeding those targets. That's very exciting to hear. Coming out of COVID, we all know there was a lot of disarray, and it's good to see things getting back in order and going in the right direction. So, as you know, I was pleased to attend one of the workshops that you held at our community center last week. Culinary market readiness, and I must say how you almost got me inspired to start a restaurant. Almost, but I don't think that'll happen. We'll leave that to Councillor Weir. It's just quite impressive, the resources that you have. So we need to get the word out better. That's always an ongoing issue for the amount of resources that we really have here, because I like to eat and I'd love to have more restaurants here in our county. It seems like we lost a few in the COVID experience, but you had a very impressive plan right from just original concept to market readiness, and it's a tremendous resource that I hope more people use. That was just about restaurants, but clearly, for any type of business, you've got the resources to take them from just the initial concept and all through the various steps and roadblocks and issues that you help them through. It's quite impressive. So just to congratulate you in the work that you're doing, and really appreciated seeing that at the workshop last week.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Just for clarity, that workshop was delivered by Ottawa Valley Tourism and our economic development team. I was there to support. A number of my starter company participants were there in attendance, and so I like to support them when they attend different events as well. But we work together to support our businesses. So while they're on the promotional side of things and offering some of those skill development opportunities, I'm kind of in the background going, hey, while you're thinking about starting this culinary business, how about we get you registered? How about we get you insured? How are you going to take your payments? What kind of website are you going to build? And where are you going to access some funds to help you do that? So it takes a team, and that includes the municipalities. So we were grateful to be there in your space. Thank you.
Councillor from Town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Thank you, Heather, and congratulations on all of your hard work.
Thank you.
A lot of good positive outcomes and great success stories. And thanks as well for collaborating and supporting all of our municipalities, helping us achieve our goals, especially with programs like SIP. It's a great program, slowly gaining momentum in a lot of different municipalities. So thanks again for everything that you do.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you. My pleasure. And again, those community improvement plans, we know they're complex and it takes a village, you know, and so when we have resources or trainers that can save your team's time, and we know their capacity to develop what you need, so specific to the SIP plans that we delivered in February for Petawawa and Pembroke, they had very specific outcomes, and the trainer that I knew was able to develop the content for them. So if it doesn't exist, we can find people who can do it for you and save your team time. Thank you.
Councillor from Greater Madawaska, I'm not sure if he's going to ask for business planning help. Or
No, this question is much more general through you, Chair. I'm just wondering whether we can get a copy of this slide deck from today. I don't see it in our package.
Absolutely. Yes,
you.
we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And any questions anyone has, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation to understand, you know, what you're looking to do for specific referrals from clients as well. And I do refer people to your economic development departments and planning. So those cross referrals are key.
Thank you very much, Heather. And I just also wanted to compliment you on the amazing results, exceeding all of the ministry targets. And I'm also so pleased to see so many of the starter company businesses being initiated by women. And I think that's really going to help our communities grow, is seeing more women starting their own businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
So we'll move on to Ms. Rose and the forestry report.
Thank you, Chair. On page 83 of your packages, I just have some information items to go through. So information item number 1 is a response to our letter that we mailed in February to the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry about increased action in surveying and responding to the hemlock woolly adelgid, which is yet another invasive species that's threatening our forests. So the letter is included in your package. There's not really anything new there besides a note about developing a hemlock woolly adelgid monitoring network which would help with like community science. We did apply to have a few sites on Renfrew County Forest included in that. We were not successful, so we do plan to survey a few of our tracks ourselves this spring. But I just wanted to highlight that the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry has one forest health technician for all of Renfrew County and Algonquin Park. That's a lot of area for one person to cover, and also Kempville District, so very large area. It is really important for members of the public and other people working in the forest to keep an eye out for these kinds of threats and report them if you find them. Item number 2 is just a note about its forestry conference season, so the Ontario Professional Foresters Annual Conference and General Meeting. Most people do not know that foresters are a regulated profession. You have to be a member of this association as a registered professional forester to practice forestry in Ontario. We're regulated. Members of the public can complain. We have obligations to do continuing education annually, and this conference is just one way to meet those obligations and to keep current with practicing forestry in Ontario. Item number 3 is just a note about the ice storm that occurred in April. We did do some surveying in a few of the tracks that were considered to be high risk. Have not obviously visited all 53 tracks to make an assessment on all of them, but the ones that I did visit did not seem to have enough damage to warrant salvaging. There was a lot of trees on edges and in openings that were snapped off, 5+ meters up. which is unfortunate, but that's a natural occurrence. Did get a few calls from the public with concerns, but of course, obviously, the most damage occurred in the most visible areas, so that's expected, although we do appreciate getting information from the public about where to look for these kinds of things. I should also note on the forest disturbance front, it does look like there will be, at least in some geographic areas, a resurgence of the cedar leaf miner, which you may remember from last year. That was the most public inquiries I've ever had about anything as the county forester, all the cedars turning brown along roadsides. So definitely in some areas that looks like it's going to continue. That's not an invasive species. However, it does do a significant amount of damage to cedar trees. But you also remember that in August, there was a regreening of the ones that survived that infestation. So stay tuned for more on that. We'll keep an eye on it. Number 4 is a note about the Ontario Forest Industries annual convention, and that occurred in Toronto on May 3rd. That's a really great way for us to stay current on what kind of challenges our local industry is facing here in Renfrew County and also beyond. There's a lot of talk right now about the bioeconomy and innovative building with wood, and that also applies to our local industry who are interested in looking into those kind of opportunities. There was an economic forecast, and like all industries right now, the forest sector is experiencing a bit of a downturn. Although the news wasn't too bleak that was delivered there, it doesn't look like it's going to be as severe as the 2008 dip, and it's anticipated that improvements should start in 2024. There was also some talk about changing leadership. Like all sectors, there's a big demographic shift happening right now, and also a lot more participation by Indigenous communities, which was nice to hear about. Information item number 5 is just a note about the tree planting that's occurred on the county forest this season. So there was 2 different projects. We did plant 30 butternut trees that were grown from seed of healthy butternut trees. So in case you're not aware, butternut tree is another endangered species that's being threatened by an invasive canker disease, so a fungus that is killing all of the butternut trees out there. There's very few that are identified that are surviving this canker, and when they do find those healthy trees, it's quite an exercise that's undertaken by the Forest Gene Conservation Association, and also the Rideau Valley Conservation Association is collecting seeds and growing those hopefully healthier butternut trees. So they gave us 30 of those to plant on Kennelly Tract, which is a location that I have identified probably about 20 butternut trees in one of our county forest tracts, and a few of them have been identified as what is called archivable, so they are healthy specimens. So we have a pretty cool conservation potential project happening on one of our county forests, so that was neat to be able to get started. The other tree plant happened at Centennial Lake Tract, where we did some salvage following the May 2022 windstorm. And that was carried out by county staff, which was quite an amazing day. And I was so thankful to have the help from other development and property and public works staff. That would have taken me about 4 days to do on my own, and we got it done in 1 day, which was incredible. Those trees were obtained through Forest Ontario's 50 million tree program, which I encourage you to look into in your local municipalities, or if you see any opportunities for planting either, the requirements are just 0.5 acres of open land or 1,000 meters of windrow or riparian buffer, so along a water body, or even, this is a new one that we utilized, an existing woodlot that's experienced stress or damage. And that program can provide covering 50 to 90% of planting costs, so it's a really good opportunity to get some more trees on the landscape. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the invasive species, the hemlock woolly elkrid. Comments, questions? Seeing none, the Ontario Professional Foresters Annual Conference and General Meeting. I just had a question. So you're saying the foresters have to be professionally registered, certified. If they are doing work then for a private resident and the resident wants to clear cut a whole forest, is there anything that says they have to replant to regenerate growth, or are they allowed to do what they want?
That's a great question, Chair. So registered professional foresters have to make recommendations that adhere to sound silvicultural practices. So we make the recommendations based on what science says. In some cases, clear cutting would be an appropriate treatment for, say, a poplar stand or red pine, something that needs full sun to regenerate. And depending on the forest type, like poplar, I would not recommend planting because you can't win against poplar. Nothing grows as fast as poplar. Whereas if it was a pine forest, then most foresters would likely make that recommendation or encourage monitoring to see if natural regeneration occurs. So clear cutting is definitely a silvicultural tool, but it has to be used in the right environment and not to pave paradise and put up a parking lot.
Thank you very much for that. Any other questions? Item number 3 is the 2023 ice storm. Item number 4 is the Ontario Forest Industries Annual Convention. And item number 4 is the tree planting. Yes, Councillor from Town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Lacey. Would you be able to forward some information on the tree planting programs, just so I could pass that on to staff at the municipalities? And next time you're looking for volunteers for tree planting, if I'm available, give me some advance notice. I'd love to get out there and plant a few trees. I spent a few summers doing that back in the day for 7 cents a tree, but I'll do it pro bono this time.
Through you, Chair, that I'll definitely send the information. That would be great. We need some more A-team members. Maybe we'll get more trees in next year.
I must say you were better paid than when I did it for 3 cents a tree. And I just had another question. You were talking about the butternut that has some of the healthy ones that have managed to have resistance to the invasive species. Are there any of the other, like I'm thinking of the emerald ash borer and the Dutch elm, are there any trees that are displaying the same type of resistance to those diseases as well, or pests?
Another great question. Yes, but very, very small amount, and that's what complicates the balance between, so we've talked a lot about ash, black ash being designated as an endangered species, and that's to hope to preserve those maybe less than 1% of genetically resistant or tolerant specimens. Finding those is very, very difficult, and to protect all of them, to find that very small amount would cripple so many parts of Ontario. However, there are really great organizations like the Forest Gene Conservation Association that are doing that work and trying to identify those specimens, collect seed, and preserve that genetic material.
Thank you for that. And the same organizations that work on protecting the genetics, do they also work on developing genetics to create more resistance?
That's kind of a higher level science endeavor. However, for butternut, for example, they're actually grafting the seedlings of the grown butternut trees onto walnut to try to create a more resistant stem to resist the canker. So there's some work being done there. I think at the federal level, that's kind of where the genetics part comes into play.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Ms. Rose? Yes, Heather.
I'd like to add, having participated in the volunteer tree planting the other day, it was a marvel to witness Mr. Davis in his natural habitat. I think he planted more trees than any of us. He was like a white-tailed deer gone. We had no idea where he was, but there were a lot of trees planted that day, so well done.
So that brings us to the real estate division report. And Kevin, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the committee. The real estate report is found on page 86. And first information item is just in the attached appendix is just referring to the projects that we've identified for 2023 and the current status of some of the existing projects. Item number 2 is regarding staffing update, and we are pleased to have a returning summer student, Mr. Grant Hurley, who will be starting May 23rd with us. And again, we're pleased that Mr. Hurley has returned. He's a hardworking and conscientious individual, and he will definitely be an asset to our maintenance staff throughout the summer as he participates in various tasks. Item number 3 is regarding the building our prior 80 McConnell Street. So community services administrative staff who currently occupy that space will be vacating the space at the end of this month and moving temporarily to Renfrew County Place. And during this temporary relocation, we'll be assisting community services with and supporting them with renovations that will be happening at another building in the RCHC portfolio in Albert Street. And then in addition to 80 McConnell, also we do have a potential tenant who has inquired about space at 80 McConnell, and in the upcoming weeks we'll be negotiating with them to establish a lease agreement. Item number 4 is a quick update regarding, again, 450 O'Brien, Renfrew County Place. So we do have a vacant space that was vacated by Community Futures at the end of March. So temporarily, VTAC will be moving into that space for a couple of months. And again, we continue to seek and look for future tenants for Renfrew County Place. Item number 5 is a good news story. It's regarding the new build for the integrated community housing at the corner of Lee Street and Douglas. The contractors last week have moved some of their equipment on site and have started construction. So we look forward working with Braun as the contractor and our architect is V&G. We look forward to working with them as this project progresses in the upcoming months. And the projected completion date for this project is May 13th, 2024. And I'll stop there, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Aditz. And we'll go back to information item number 1, the real estate 2023 capital and capital under threshold projects. Comments or questions? Seeing none, item number 2 is the staffing update. Item 3 is the Armprior 80 McGonigal Street project. Yes, Councillor from Armprior, please.
Thank you, Chair. Kevin, could you expand on the 80 McGonigal? Will county staff still be in the building, or are we leasing to the whole building out to someone?
Thank you for that question through you, Chair. Yes, later this year in the upcoming months, there will be the paramedic services will be utilizing some of the space at 80 McConnell, and then the other space is what I referred to with that potential of a future tenant will occupy the remainder of the building.
Yeah, supplementary.
Thank you, Chair. So currently, I believe the paramedics are in one of, I think it's called West Loft, beside the paramedic building. Is that the people who will go to McGonigal? Or will that training still be there? I'm a little bit, I won't say confused, but confused about where all our people are going. And the new building that we had on McGonigal will no longer, it's still our building, but we're going to lease it out, but not to Renfrew County people.
If I could, Chair, so just to hopefully provide some clarity. So currently, through the budget process in 2023, the paramedic service is renting the whole building right now. And the intent is Laura Community Services, Laura Lapine's group, will be moving out. So right now, they currently have, they're utilizing one half of the building. EMS is using the other half currently. So the intent is at the end of this month that community services team will be moving out temporarily until their new space in Albert will be renovated and be placed there. In the meantime, we do have another client interested in one half of 80 McGonigal, and VTAC will be utilizing the second half of 80 McGonigal. So we will own we own the property, and one half will be utilized by County of Renfrew staff. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, follow up.
Last question. When we go to Albert, are we talking the Burwash apartment for the new?
Through you, Chair. So no, it's not the Burwash apartment complex. It's the one beside it. It's the one single-story building that has a space available to be renovated to have social or community services staff in-site or on-site a number of days a week. So we have two complexes there. We have the Burwash apartment complex, and beside that, along the river, another building, a single-story building.
Yes, but aren't they the apartments?
If I may, Chair, we do have Director Laura Lapine at the back, and maybe she can provide a better context to this discussion.
Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, to committee, thank you for the question, and definitely, like Jason has explained, we have a building, a Renfrew County Housing Corporation building on Albert Street. This building has a community room that we are looking to fit up so we can bring our services into that building. Now, this is a unique building within the Renfrew County Housing portfolio because the apartment access is not in the building, it's from the outside. So this space is currently not utilized right now, and we have the ability to build our offices in there. So our goal is to bring our services within our Renfrew County Housing buildings to provide more on-site services for tenants. We have a smaller staff group in Arnprior right now in terms of delivering services, so it made more sense for us to bring our services more into our community housing buildings. It's one of the things during the budget process that we did identify as wanting to do over the next few years, bring services into our housing buildings to be more available to our tenants, to be able to bring other services in there. For example, you know, we may have an opportunity down the road to bring in a flu clinic so that people aren't having to travel to us. We're going to be there. During the interim, while the building is being renovated and the fit-ups are being done, we still have service offered in Arnprior. We have current arrangements with other locations within the town of Arnprior for any tenant who needs to meet with us. A lot of our work we can do over the phone, and with our Renfrew County Housing, we go to those buildings to provide the service. So we don't anticipate any interruption of service. We actually see this as an enhancement to our services. 80 McGonigal was a great location for us, but our space was much more than we needed. And we really feel that bringing our services into our tenant complexes makes it easier for tenants to access us. So, you know, we're going to bring Ontario Works, childcare, and housing into the location at Albert Street. So it's a temporary relocation, like our relocation we hope to have within a couple of months, but our services will continue just in different locations. We'll work with each person who needs our service to get to a location close to them so that our tenants and clients aren't having to travel across town to see us. Hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Lapine. Any other questions on item number 3? Item number 4 is the 450 O'Brien Road Virtual Triage and Assessment Center. Any potential clients on the horizon?
Currently, no, but we continue to seek and look for some future clients and tenants.
Thank you for that. Item number 5 is the integrated community housing. This is a good news story to see this finally starting. So then we will go, yes. So then we will go back and, Mr. Davis, are you going to speak to the addendum?
I do believe Mr. Radis will have the addendum ready.
Thank you. Mr. Raditz, please.
Thank you, Chair. So we have a bylaw item number 6 in the addendum. So it's a request for tender -RE-2023-08-RP storage units at the Renfrew County Place. And Chair, I'll just read the recommendation. Recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommends that contract RE-2023-08-RP as submitted by TSG Contracting, that should be Pembroke, Ontario, not Ottawa, it's a misprint, Ontario, for the construction of equipment storage unit at Renfrew County Place, 450 O'Brien Road, Renfrew, Ontario, in the amount of $215,000 and $215,350 plus applicable taxes be approved, and further that County Council pass a bylaw to authorize execution of the contract. I'll stop there, Chair.
Thank you. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from McNabb Braeside. Questions, or I'll get you to do the background. Maybe first, Mr. Radin.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, I'll give you a bit of background on this project. So in April 6th, we submitted a tender requesting the construction for 2 buildings on the property at Renfrew County Place. And we did have a mandatory site meeting on April 18th, where we had 8 contractors participate in the mandatory site meeting. And as you can see, 6 contractors did submit bids for the project. And of course, the lowest bid was presented by TSG Contracting. The financial implications, so we budgeted a total of $425,000 for this project for the 2 buildings. And of course, the tender did exclude the electrical, mechanical, engineering services, and geotechnical components in that bid. So with the current estimate for those items, we have a estimate of about $86,000. So the total cost for the building and the estimated items is $301,350. So there is, we still are waiting on a report, a geotech report, which we haven't received yet. So there is an unknown there. So that's one of the other reasons we were kind of considering the budget as to where we wanted to go with this. Hence, we are recommending to construct the one building. Chair, I'll just stop there if there's any questions.
Thank you for that. Any questions? I just had a question. What's the square footage? What's the size of this build?
Thank you, Chair. The building will be about 1,800 square feet. It is 50 by 36, and it consists of, it's a wood frame building, slab on grade, metal cladding, exterior and interior, and of course, metal roof on this particular building.
Thank you for that. Seeing no other questions or comments, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. So that brings us to our Planning Service Division report, and I believe we have with us this morning Ms. Bennett, and she's going to do the first part of the report.
Thank you, Chair, through to the committee. The Planning Division information items start on page 88. So the first information item is regarding Tomlinson Pit proposal. So the County of Renfrew has received an application for an official plan amendment for a property in the Township of Horton. This official plan amendment proposes to redesignate 28.1 hectares of land from rural to mineral aggregate to permit a Class A pit below the water table. There is already approximately 41.4 hectares of the property that is designated as mineral aggregate. These lands are subject to an application for a Class A license for a pit below the water table to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. It was submitted by R.W. Tomlinson under the Aggregate Resources Act. So the proposed extraction area is 55.5 hectares, and the proposed maximum annual tonnage is 1 million tons. There was also a concurrent zoning bylaw application that was submitted to the Township of Horton, and this is to rezone portions of the property from extractive industrial reserve, rural and rural exception 9, to extractive industrial exception 2. The exception zone is just to reduce interior and exterior side yard widths and the front and rear yard setbacks. A public meeting will be held on June 15th of next month at the Horton Community Center. The purpose of the meeting is to provide the community with an opportunity to hear about the proposal, as well as to provide any comments. The second information item is a resolution from the County of Prince Edward. So it is regarding, it's requesting that the province pause the proposed changes to the provincial policy statement, in particular regarding the heritage and agricultural land section. And that is attached to the report, and it's found on page 96. And I will end there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the Tomlinson Pit proposal and the zoning bylaw amendment. Questions or comments? Yes, Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
Through you, Chair. This is the first time I've seen something like this, so I just want to get a bit of background information. So part of this process, there will be an environmental assessment impact in regards to this as well, or I don't know what the process is around this.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, so as part of their ARA submission, they have done a number of different studies, and we've also received those required studies. And through that process, we've also sent 2 of the studies to be peer-reviewed. We have a noise study and a hydrogeological study that's being peer-reviewed by a third-party reviewer.
Thank you.
Councillor from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. Curious, would Zen City be useful in this application so the rest of us can read about what studies or what applications they've had to make? Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Yes, I am going to do a Zen City for that. Bruce and I did talk about that yesterday, but I'm going to have it ready before the public meeting, so residents can also have the opportunity to take a look.
And I notice in the license that they are applying to excavate below the water table. Is there a process then that they have to have in place should the pit start to fill with water while they're excavating? How is that managed, or is it part of the study that there won't be a concern that water will infiltrate?
Thanks, Chair, for that question. So they did do a study, and that is also one that we are getting peer reviewed, just to see if what they are proposing or any impacts will be addressed. And the peer reviewer right now has already been sending back comments, so we're just in the process right now of going through that to see if there's any other recommendations that need, or requirements that need to be done.
Thank you for that. So those further comments would come back to committee and council before the final approval?
Yes, thank you. So we will be bringing back the OPA for county approval.
Councillor from Town of Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a mineral guy, but when you said below the water table, that means to me that there could be a stream or something under the ground where they're going to dig. And when this happens, I'll look at Bruce, but when you take the dirt out and you hit the stream or the river that's underneath there, that affected my well 2 miles down the road. How will that play out, or is there some sort of I won't say a license, but some sort of a study to say that whatever's under there won't affect my well in the next door neighbor? If I remember right, somewhere last couple of years at Nesbitt, there was all kinds of problems with people's wells when they started digging there. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, through you, Chair. So depending on the nature of the pit, there's a whole bunch of different techniques or processes that the applicant can take for managing the water on the site. So the first part of your question with regards to impacts on wells, that is the main purpose of the hydrogeological study that was being submitted. So looking at what exactly are they proposing to do, how much water are they going to need to remove from the pit when they are excavating below that natural water table, and then what is going to be that impact on lowering that water table? Are there going to be any offsite impacts? Are they going to be impacting the groundwater for anybody's drinking water system? As it relates to the actual pit operations itself, typically what a pit or a quarry operator would do is dig even a deeper hole somewhere on the site and direct the drainage to that deeper pit that's right into the groundwater, and then they would actually use it to pump out and dewater the pit so that the area that they are excavating would be higher and drier. So it does result in a lowering of the groundwater table as they are dewatering the pit, and depending on the volumes of water, so I believe off the top of my head it's 50,000 liters per day. So, and most quarries or pits would hit that level. So if their dewatering program would hit that level of water that they would have to remove from the site per day, then there's additional permits and regulations with the Ministry of Environment that they would need to obtain. So there is a process, but as far as it impacts or potentially would impact people's drinking water or their wells, that is the main purpose of that hydrogeological study, which the township is engaged with a peer reviewer to ensure that that study has been done to all the appropriate standards and making sure that residents in the area are being protected from any impacts of that dewatering process. Thank you.
Thank you. That certainly explains the process in a lot more detail. So appreciate that. Thanks, Bruce. Any other questions? Seeing none, then we will go back to resolutions. And Mr. Howarth, please. My apologies. Information item number 2 is the Prince Edward County Planning Statement Resolution. Any comments or questions? Yes, Craig.
Thank you, Chair. So I asked that this be included. Often we look at resolutions. We get a number of them, of course, as your own councils do. You see resolutions and you suss them out, whether there's a feel for resolutions to make it onto the table or not, based on previous direction. This one's interesting. This comes from one of our peers, although the Prince Edward County is a single tier, they are a county. And Mr. Howarth can definitely speak to it. The conversation going on amongst the county planners groups and most municipalities is the Bill 97. Bill 97, there's so many bills these days. Bill 97, the effects of Bill 97 on agricultural lands. So as you recall, Bill 97, as you may recall, Bill 97 is allowing further severances on agricultural lots. Up to a number of 3 new lots can be severed off of all agricultural, including prime agricultural lands across Ontario. And there's a larger conversation, and this is where Prince Edward County is leaning, is a request to the province to halt the conversation about those severances until such time as everybody's had a chance to review that. The review period or the comment period is June 2nd or June 6th, I think, on the Bill 97. But I'm not sure if we've done the actual calculation, but for some of these very prime agricultural type communities, they are looking at an increase of lots to their municipalities of upwards of 20,000, 25,000 new additional lots in their communities. Now that's a scenario where if every farm severed off 3 2-acre lots, that would be, I guess, a worst case or best case scenario, depending on how you look at it. So it's creating some angst amongst planners and amongst municipalities on if everybody severed 3 lots off of their farm, how are we going to service all these lots down all these roads? So there is a bit of a conversation going on. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to support or not support this resolution, but wanted to put it on for some context on what is happening in the planning world in relation to Bill 97. And if Mr. Davis or Mr. Howarth would like to comment, or Ms. Bennett, then feel free.
Mr. Davis, please.
Thank you, and I will defer to Mr. Howarth in a second, but I just want to make sure the committee is aware that our planning team has reached out to each municipality to see if they have any input to this conversation. So Bill 97 has a number of changes, let alone the agricultural changes that Craig's talked about. And on top of that, Bruce Howarth has already reached out to the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus Planning Group to see what Eastern Ontario will be looking and having communications with them with the ramifications of Bill 97. As you may notice, Bill 23, a number of bills in the past, quite recent past within the last year, have made a lot of changes to the planning world, and this is one of them. And so we're always facing challenges in the planning world. We're trying to reach out, have a coordinated effort, a coordinated correspondence with our local municipalities in Eastern Ontario, but it's still a challenge. The province wants response times for some of these bills quickly, and it's tough for us to get those responses back in a kind of a good, concise manner. And maybe I'll leave it, pass it off to Mr. Howarth if I could, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Howarth, please.
Sure, thank you very much. I think one of the important things to consider is that these changes are going to have a significant impact on the county and the way that we process and review applications. So in the future, so we don't know exactly, there's been a lot of changes as Mr. Davis and the CAO Kelly have just already talked about. And these are coming down the pipe, and whenever there's change at the provincial level, planning is very much a trickle-down effect. So that when the province makes changes, it trickles down from like the provincial policy statement down into our official plans and then ultimately into our local bylaws. So it directly impacts the way that the County of Renfrew reviews and processes planning applications, but also the way it will have a significant impact on local municipalities and the way that planning applications are accepted and processed. Once this provincial policy statement is updated, as the resolution from Prince Edward County indicated, that we still don't even know what the natural heritage policies and the revisions to those are going to look like. So there's a lot of unknowns right now. So we don't know exactly what is going to be the policies that are going to be coming down for us. We don't know those impacts on us. Whether or not the province moves ahead with this agricultural proposal to allow severances in agricultural, it's been put out there already as an idea, but it's not yet finalized. But that will have a significant impact on county policy in the future. So this is going to be an instigator. So the province has indicated, given us a date of the fall when they think that these policies, that would they like those policies to be in effect or these changes to be in effect. What the final version looks like, again, we'll have to see what that final version is going to look like. But that, once we know, that is going to trigger a significant review of planning policy and direction for both the county level and for our local municipalities. So there's going to be a large planning discussion that's going to be needing to occur in the fall and maybe leading up to that as well. It's difficult to have a lot of these conversations ahead of time because, again, there are so many unknowns. We don't know exactly all the impacts of how these changes are going to trickle down to us, but there's going to be significant conversations that are going to be needed, and it'll be, do we start that in the summer when we have a lot of still unknowns, or whether that would result in a lot of, let's say, wasted effort because of the policy. We have a big conversations in the summer and then the policies change by the fall. we'll just have to be redoubling those efforts, or do we wait until the fall to see what exactly these changes are and then move forward from there? But there are a lot of changes. It's going to be significant, and there are going to be, maybe some pause. I don't want to say it sounds like the sky's falling. There may be good changes as well that help growth and development and encourage housing in the county as well. So there could be positives. There could be some areas. Prince Edward County has identified a couple areas of concern, but once we know what these provincial changes are, there are going to be trickle-down effects for both the county and local municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And maybe just looking to Mr. Kelly, is this going to come then as a recommendation to County Council to support this resolution, or is this just mostly information?
Chair, it's information item unless you put a motion on the table today. And it will not come to, it likely will not rise to the occasion of making it to County Council.
So I guess I'll look to committee to see if they would like this to come to County Council or accept it as information only. Councillor from Town of Arnprior and then the warden.
Thank you, Chair. If I heard right, this has already been sent to our municipalities. So our individual municipalities will bring it forward as a motion, I'm sure. Thank you.
Warden, please.
Yeah, I have been fortunate to have been part of a number of conversations, and I had a good call with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, which shares some of the concerns broadly expressed by Prince Edward County about lots being created. And they're asking, I think you'll see something from the OFA in the next little while, asking for municipalities to endorse something like this or a pause. I've also heard from, I've been across the province the last little while and heard from a number of smaller rural municipalities as well expressing some concern. And I think the worry is not so much as sticking a finger in the province's eye, so much as saying to them, look, there is some concerns and you should really do some more consultation. And I guess what I'm proposing is I would like it to come, I think it's beneficial for it to come to County Council, and then should they support it, it goes to the province, and it just adds to the voices of, you may want to slow down, or you may want to listen a little more, or you may want to reconsider, or you may want to have more detailed regulations. But it is a concern that's very slowly building, and I can't give you any numbers. I can't say it's 176 out of 224 rural municipalities or anything. I can't tell you that. I know it's slowly building, though.
So you're moving that, Warden?
Yes, I am.
No, it's just direction? Okay, thank you.
No, just clarifying, because TV can't hear me. So no motion required. Well, there's no motion. I don't hear a motion of support. Just it's this direction that this will make the council agenda.
Okay, thank you. So now we will continue with Mr. Howarth and resolutions.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 3, this is a request for staff direction. And maybe before I go into the background, I'll just provide the staff recommendation. So the recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council provide direction to staff to prepare a revised tariff of fees bylaw that includes a new fee for pre-consultation.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Horton, seconded by the Councillor from Arnprior. And background, please.
Thank you, Chair. So frequently the county does review our bylaws, especially our fee bylaw, to make sure that we are in line both with some of the covering some of our costs and also in line with other local municipalities in the area. So typically this bylaw would have come earlier in the year, but as committee can recall, we've just recently undergone a significant process through official plan amendment number 35, and we are proposing to change some of the planning processes, which would place a heavier emphasis on upfront or front loading of planning review files for specific files like zoning bylaw amendments and site plan applications. We did bring forward a proposal last year to committee and council to include a new fee for our general inquiry service. This is a very important service that we provide. So when before somebody submits an application to the County of Renfrew or to a local municipality that the county provides planning services to, we strongly urge and recommend people come talk to us first. We have a significant process where we'll take a review of that application, we'll identify any issues or required studies or identify different agencies that we would recommend a applicant talk to before they submit their application. So before they formally put a lot of money or investment into a particular development, we let them know exactly what those requirements for that application would be up front, so that they have a very good understanding of what the process they are going to be undertaking. As a result of previous provincial changes under Bills 109, Bill 23, and actually there's some changes even included in the Bill 97, which is not full in force and in effect yet, but changes to those provisions and through that were implemented through official plan number 35 will require some changes to processes at the local level and some at the county level as well. So what we're looking for now is to revisit that conversation of implementing a fee for these pre-consultations, so that they do take up quite a bit of staff time. And there is a proposal at the bottom, I think at the bottom of the page, starting at the bottom of page 89, sorry, and going into page 90 as well. What county staff are proposing for county approval. So these are for severance applications or plan subdivision applications or official plan amendment. So those are county approvals that follow county applications. We are recommending a pre-consultation fee of $200, whereas right now it is a free process. And we are also proposing, though, that that application fee paid for the pre-consultation be refunded, or not refunded, but the application cost itself be reduced by $200 as well if that application is submitted within 12 months. So at the end of the day, for people that are progressing through that application process, there won't be a net increase to them, but it would implement a charge for a lot of the general inquiries that we do that do not result in files or that application later on. So that it would, I don't want to say it discourage, that's not the intention, is not to discourage, but it may weed out some of the more fanciful or out there proposals that we get, and but also it would provide I think that value, an understanding of that value of that service that we do provide. So that would go a long way in implementing that those Bill 109 or the official plan amendment number 35 requirements to front end those applications. And the second part of it is, so not only do we do or provide services for county approvals, many municipalities have entered planning service agreements with us where we provide that local support for planning services, and those are more for applications such as zoning bylaw amendments or minor variances, site plan applications, and zoning amendments. So these applications, we charge our time directly to the municipality. So we don't, when an applicant comes forward for one of those applications, they pay a fee to the municipality, and then the municipality pays us for our services, for costs. So the proposal for local services, local plan services, is that we would charge that same $200 fee to the local municipality. And then again, if an application is submitted within 12 months, that cost of that application, we'd refund the municipality that $200, not refund, we would reduce the cost of that application by $200 to that municipality as well. This one also includes a stage 2 pre-consultation. You'll see that's different from the county approvals. So a stage 2 consultation, this is what we're calling the enhanced or the front-loaded application. Bill 109 did not affect the fees for consents or plans of subdivision. They only affected minor variances or zoning bylaw amendments and site plans, not minor variances, site plans and zoning bylaw amendments primarily. So those are the areas that municipalities are going to be focusing in on providing this enhanced front-ending pre-consultation services, and we're proposing an additional fee of $1,000 for that service, because that is when a lot of that review, a lot of staff time does take place. And we can use, for example, the PIT application that's in the Township of Horton as a good example. that is a good example of an application that would have benefited from that preloading or that front ending of the pre-consultation service. We could have gone through the peer review process and made sure that the hydrogeological study or the noise study, those other studies were up to standard ahead of time, and that would have kept this process a lot quicker. So right now, this process is taking probably close to a year of a review time for that pit application, whereas if it had been submitted before Bill 109, the municipality would be required to refund the entire application cost because of that time it takes to review these studies and review this process. So by implementing, if the township wanted to implement a front-ending process to review that application ahead of time, this is where that fee would be used to do that front-ending review. So it's anticipated that local municipalities that do use our county planning services, they would also need to update their fees to match, and ultimately it would be the proponent who would be paying this fee, not the local municipality. So originally, the municipality, while the county is giving that fee to the local municipality, it's anticipated that the local municipality would be able to offset that increased cost by charging it to the applicant. So I'll leave it at that there, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. Any questions? The warden, and then Councillor from Horton.
This is actually just for my education. To the CEO and Clerk's Department, given that we've had some discussion about this in the past, I think we're safe. It's not we don't have to consider it as a motion for reconsideration because it was part of a larger recommendation on fees. But I just, from my own curiosity.
Through you, Chair, to the warden, I don't believe so, and the reasons why I would suggest it does not. We have received significant changes since that time, and significant, well, the bills themselves have been significant that would require us to go back and look at that.
Thank you. It was just one of those idle strings of curiosity that flowed through.
Thank you. Councillor from Horton, please.
Thank you, Chair. I really don't need to ask the questions. The warden has looked after my concerns, so thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. And now we're back to Mr. Howarth and bylaws.
Thank you, Chair. So item 4 is a bylaw for official plan amendment number 34, and this is an official plan amendment that has been submitted by the Township of Whitewater Region. And I'll just read the recommendation. That the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council pass a bylaw to adopt official plan amendment number 34.
Thank you. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Petawawa, seconded by the warden. And please go ahead with the background.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an official plan amendment submitted by the Township of Whitewater Region to review the settlement area boundary of the village of Cobden. It is to help and facilitate an existing subdivision application known as the Bennett subdivision, submitted by BEI. So part of the lands that are affected by that subdivision are within this plan, this official plan amendment, and also it's to expand a further settlement boundary, sort of to the south and to the east end of Cobden. So to support the study, the township did have a comprehensive review prepared by WSP, and also there was a traffic study that was done. There was a original public meeting that was held last year, and that received quite a bit of community feedback and involvement with it. And as a result of that community engagement, the township did slightly revise the amendment. Originally, there had been a commercial component along Highway 17 on the opposite side of Cobden, along the north. Like if you are familiar with where the Whitewater Brewery is, it's sort of up from that location further up the highway towards Pembroke. That section of the amendment received quite a bit of opposition from some of the members of the public, so the township did revise their request or their application, and they came back with what you'll see in front of you today. So part of the application is removing some areas that of the settlement boundary and redesignating them into a rural designation, and then reallocating portions of that settlement boundary to this new location that the township, in the township's opinion, is more suitable for development and is going to facilitate additional growth. So there is a section in that's closer to Highway 17 that you'll see, and that is an area that the township has identified where they'd like to see some commercial growth. And then the area behind that, so if you can think of if you're familiar with Cobden, the area around the agricultural and hall and the rink, it's that area that we're talking about. That's the area surrounding that would be looking for additional residential lands. There was a second public meeting held because the application was revised. Again, there was I'll say, fairly significant public interest in it. There were several people that spoke, and there are the concerns that were listed below. They're included in the planning report. I'm not going to go through them in great detail. A lot of these concerns were very similar to concerns that we heard during our official plan amendment number 25 process with regards to needing to acquire land or having ownership of land before being able to have an official plan or plan for those areas. There was back in 2018 when we did our county official plan process, we had received a legal opinion on these questions, and that just noted that the county is required to have an official plan. It is to apply to private lands, and no, the county doesn't have to own land in order to plan for it. So there's also a question with regards to traffic. So there was a traffic study that was prepared for this application. And in addition, there's been significant consultations with the Ministry of Transportation with regards to access and coming off of Astrolabe Road and down to Highway 17. So the proposed amendment is supported by the ministry. There is a specific policy that's included in the official plan amendment to recognize what the ministry's objectives are and making sure that the Ministry of Transportation's interests are protected throughout any new development, and what the requirements are going to be for the development of these lands with regards to traffic. And it does support that the current subdivision application that's in front of the county for that Bennett subdivision, that the traffic and that development can move forward without any major upgrades or any significant impacts for traffic in the area. So I'll leave that there, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. Questions or comments for Mr. Howarth? You've done a great job. I see no questions. So I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Oh, sorry, Mr. Kelly.
I wanted to let the vote go through first. There's a piece of irony, I suppose, with settlement boundaries with some of the new bills. I don't know if you want to describe the process moving forward and why you'll probably never see these again.
Thank you, Chair. So one of the major changes of the PPS that we just talked about. So when we said some could be seen as concerning for different aspects, some of the changes to the PPS would actually help or speed up growth. So this is an application that, as mentioned, the Township of Whitewater region did a comprehensive review, and this is a requirement of the current PPS, saying that when you want to look at your settlement boundaries, where the township should grow, there's a very strict or very detailed list of items that the municipality has to go through looking at to justify your changing of your settlement boundary. So one of the changes of the PPS is eliminating that comprehensive review component for the vast majority of these types of applications. So whereas the township would still have to go through the official plan amendment process, they would not have needed that comprehensive review, which was a significant undertaking and actually was a pretty expensive study to do. So it would have saved the township, I don't want to say the exact number, but tens of thousands of dollars worth of study if the provincial policy statement under the proposed one had been implemented. So these comprehensive reviews is being removed from the PPS, and will make looking at your settlement boundaries, whether it's the town of Renfrew or town of Arnprior or the villages, whether it's Barry's Bay, for any municipality, the requirements for these comprehensive reviews are more or less being largely eliminated. So it's kind of an irony. So the township did go through that process. They did submit that study in accordance with the current requirements of the provincial policy statement. But it's something that in the future they possibly wouldn't have had to do. Thank you.
Thank you for that additional information. We do have a closed session, but before we go into closed, I'm going to suggest that we take a 7-minute break and come back. Oh, yes. I'll get a mover and a seconder first for the report as a whole, and then we'll take a 7-minute break. Moved by Councillor from Laurentian Valley, seconded by Councillor from Greater Madawaska. Any comments on the report as a whole? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. So we'll be back here at 11:45. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. So we do have a closed item. And actually, before the closed item, though, we have new business, and I have one new business item from Councillor Renfrew.
Thank you, Chair. Last week, I attended the Canada's Rural and Remote Broadband Community in North Bay, and I'll submit my report at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I'll need a mover and a seconder to go into close to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land involving the Renfrew County and District School Board, potential land in Deep River. Moved by Councillor from McNabb-Braeside, seconded by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. All in favor? That's carried. We are now in closed. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody, and we are now at item number 9, which is the date of our next meeting will be Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, and then I'll look for a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Moved by Councillor from Arnprior, you had a question.
Thank you, Chair. Just a reminder that our next meeting is in McNabb Braeside.
Councillor from McNabb Braeside.
And thank you, my colleague from Arnprior. And just a reminder that everybody is invited for a tour of the men's shed when they're down there. Thank you. More info on that to come.
Thank you both for that. So now I'll look for a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Moved by the councillor from Town of Arnprior, seconded by a councillor from Township of Laurentian Valley. All in favor? Thank you. We are adjourned.